Hello and welcome back to Gapeys Grow Room. We are outside today for this week's update. Just about everything is already moved out of the grow room, so we are going to be doing a garden update today. Not everything is in the ground, but I do have quite a bit in the ground. A lot of it is stuff that's overwintered from last year. So I thought I would take you on a little tour to see how everything is doing. We're going to start here in the greenhouse, and pretty much everything in the greenhouse is figs. I've got nearly all of the container figs in the greenhouse, and almost all of them have woken up. We have a couple stragglers. We've got our Rossellini here. I wasn't sure if it was going to wake up. This is one I started from a cutting last season, and it looks like the tips have died back, but we're starting to see some new growth here along the two main stems there. And then the other one that has not waken up is one that I just got this year from a local friend. This is Florea, and for some reason it is not waking up. We've got some green tips here on the top, but it just is not pushing out any growth yet, which is very strange. But everything else is doing really well. I've done a few repotting of older figs that were getting root bound. They're ones, if you watch my fig videos last year, I had some issues with some of the older figs just dropping all their leaves in the middle, kind of early summer, and hopefully repotting those and getting the roots trimmed will help them out. And all these up here on the shelf are all ones that I started from cuttings last season, and I started quite a few. I've also got a few tomatoes here on the shelf in the greenhouse, and I kind of put these out here as an experiment. These were some extras that I normally probably would have composted, but I decided to put these in the greenhouse just to see if they'd survive, and they have. I've probably got a dozen or so tomatoes here, and I did just recently put a pepper out here as well. That's going to be going to a new home here pretty soon. As far as what's in the ground in the greenhouse, we've just got some overwintered lettuce there in the back. We've got a few spinaches tucked away. You can kind of barely see them in between the fig pots. We've also got some radicchio back there and more spinach. We've got a kale here that is flowering, so I've been kind of breaking off branches of that and feeding it to the chickens. And then what I do have that's new in the greenhouse is some beets. So these are Detroit golden beets that I just planted probably about a month ago, and they're looking really good. Here on the other side of the greenhouse, we've got some more stuff. These are a couple of bonsais that Mark brought home from Seattle. He's starting to get into bonsai, and I thought those were some really cute ones. And then we've got some volunteer celery that's kind of sprouting up all over the place. We've got a thyme here that I really cut back quite a bit about a month ago, and it's really put off a lot of new growth, and it is starting to put out some flowers, so I should probably trim that back again here pretty soon. We've got some more spinach. I'm always amazed how huge the spinach leaves get this time of year. Look at how big that leaf is. Pretty crazy. Another radicchio there, some more volunteer celery, and oh, let me show you the biggest fig so far. This is the Vern's Brown Turkey. Pretty good sized fig on that one. And our radicchio is starting to bolt as well. I fed some of that to the chickens. That one there is going to go to the chickens here pretty soon. Actually, maybe I'll bring that to them right now. I'm sure they could use a snack. I think Barry knows what's coming. What do you think, Barry? Are your girls hungry? Here you go. There he goes, calling them all over. Here we've got some Seakale in containers that I started from seed last year that's doing really well. I had these overwintered in smaller pots in the greenhouse and just repotted these up into these larger containers about a month ago. Some more bonsais back there. This one is really cute. We have this in-ground strip here that is next to the chicken run. I planted some spinach and some beets here about a month ago, and they're doing pretty well. We've got some perennial dandelions. So these are a pink and white variety. It just finished blooming, so I don't have those to show you, but I'll put up a picture so you can see what they look like. They're really pretty, not as invasive as the regular yellow ones. We got some volunteer, I believe this is California poppies. And then I've got one of my Seakales here in ground. This was a variegated version of the ones that I started, and I thought it was really pretty, so I decided to put that one in ground. And I'll be posting a video on how I started those from seed here before too long. We've got some more beets. We have a whole bunch of volunteer something that is coming up here. I'm not really sure what that is. We've got some volunteer alyssums here, some more beets, more spinach, and I think this is might be the Delfino cilantro that I planted from row 7 seeds here. And I think here this might be arugula that I threw in here. I'm gonna taste one of these leaves, see if that's what it is. Yep, that's definitely cilantro. But this is a really neat variety that has kind of frilly, ferny leaves. That is really cool, and I think row 7 seeds is the only one that has that. Here's our garlic doing really well. I think I've got about 6 different varieties and a mix of hardneck and softneck varieties here that I planted, I think in October. And I've got some lettuces coming up here in between, so they make pretty good companion plants. I've got, most of these are Morton's mix from Experimental Farm Network. And then I've also got a bunch of lettuces lined up against the edges of this bed. And then I just planted my onions here that I started from seed in, I think, February. So I've got, I think, 4 different varieties of onions here, and I just planted those a few weeks ago, but they're still hanging in there. Last year the birds were pulling them out, but I haven't had that problem this year, thankfully. It's pretty obvious this bed is full of overwintered greens. This one here is a mustard that it's actually taller than I am. It's probably at least 8 feet tall now. But that's going to be going to the chickens here before long. And then I've got a scarlet kale here that is just flowering, that overwintered. And then I've got this feathered frills kale. This is one of my favorite kales. I like how frilly it is, but it is also starting to flower. But I've been munching on that one this spring. Lots of overwintered spinach. This one looks like it's getting ready to bolt there. And then our onions that overwintered are starting to flower. And I planted some radishes a few weeks ago, and they're coming up. I think actually it looks like we've got some leaf miner damage on that one. I don't think I've ever had that problem on radishes before. But the rest of these look pretty good. There's some more radicchio that I planted out here in the fall, and it is starting to bolt as well. I should probably harvest at least some of these. This one is pretty much gone. Lots more lettuces and spinaches. Oh, we've also got some bok choy here that I planted a few weeks ago, which it's starting to bolt. Now this bed has some overwintered onions as well that is starting to flower. And actually these might be leeks, but I had these planted somewhere else in the garden and moved them over here in the fall, and they are bolting. And then I've got some peas that I started this season. I don't normally grow peas, but I decided to give them a try this year. This is a variety from row 7 seeds. That's a purple variety that stays purple after cooking, which I think is unusual. I think normally it turns green when cooked, but these ones apparently don't. And then we've got some more lettuce there lining the edge of this bed. And I planted some more radishes here, and our chives are just starting to bloom, so I'm going to be making some chive blossom vinegar here pretty soon, which is one of my favorites for salads. And we've also got some garlic chives here that flowers later, so I've been harvesting this and using that a lot in our meals. Over here next to the beehives, we have our asparagus patch. And we've been harvesting a lot of asparagus this year, but we've also got some that we missed, so they're growing really tall and turn into these kind of fern-like trees. But they'll put out some flowers and seeds, and I just let them fall and they start new baby plants. But I am having one problem in this bed. The mint that I have next door has been really spreading like wildfire, not wildflower. You can see here it's coming up all around the asparagus. I've been trying to pull it out and I can't seem to contain it. There's some all the way over there as well, and I'm considering just pulling it all out. Here's our herb bed, and I don't have a whole lot of things in here. Most of it is perennials. I've got some golden oregano here, and once it's pretty much in full shade this time of year, but once it starts getting some sun, it'll turn a really pretty yellow golden color. And then this herb, I can never remember the name of it, but I'll find it and put it up on the video. I don't really use it too much. It's got a really strong kind of floral flavor. And then our lovage. This thing is, I don't know what to do with it because it just gets so huge and takes over the entire bed. It's almost as tall as me right now, and I'm constantly cutting it back, and I don't really use it too often, so I am considering getting rid of it. And then we've got our sage here. I started some white sage from seed that I'm going to be planting in this bed. I thought I planted it already, but maybe I didn't yet. But I'll be planting that here pretty soon. But this one is just a regular, normal common sage, which is starting to flower. This is our last bed. I haven't really planted too much in here yet. I've got some kale, or no, actually that's Swiss chard, I believe, back there. You can kind of see it between the weeds. We've also got some overwintered carrots here. I've got this fence around it because it kept getting eaten by, I think, rabbits or rats or something. But these look like they're going to be ready to harvest here before too long. I had 3 varieties in here, but I think only 2 varieties are left. And then we've got lots of volunteer potatoes coming up over here. No matter how much I try to harvest this bed, it always seems to come back. I also planted some amaranth. This is one that I started from seed. This one's called Coral Fountain, which I grew last year. And then we've got one called Mira, which I haven't grown before, but it's got some really pretty leaves with kind of purple on the foliage there. And I don't know what this is. I think probably maybe dill. Yep, smells like dill. I noticed one more thing in this bed. I think this is a little patch of arugula that I don't really remember planting here, but it could have been volunteered from last year. I'm not sure. Or I might have planted it and forgotten about it, but it's here next to the potatoes. I hope you enjoyed the spring garden tour. I'll be getting lots of stuff planted here this month. Mother's Day is typically the day where we usually plant a lot of our summer crops here in the Pacific Northwest. We're still getting pretty cold temperatures at night. I think we've got a couple of days here that's supposed to get down into the 30s, which is too cold for a lot of things, and a lot of times it gets colder here than they say in the forecast. So I'm not confident that we're past our last freeze date. So I'm going to wait another couple weeks before I start getting a lot of stuff in the ground. But I do have my plant sale coming up starting this weekend. So if you're local and need any starts, let me know and we'll schedule a time to come out and shop. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.